warm welcome to Daily Dispatch, a show that gives you all the latest news and updates from the digital ecosystem. I'm Priya Sheth. Thank you very much for logging in. Time now to get you all the top news stories that we've been tracking for you this evening. Well, first up, fashion marketplace Myntra will hold its biannual flagship sale event, which is the end of season sale between July 3rd and 8th, and expects it to garner about 15 million visitors. Now, Myntra expects to ship over 15 million items from 6 million orders during the end of season sale, and 40% of which are likely to be delivered to Tier 2 cities and beyond. Moving on to the second headline of the day, spare parts and multi-brand car workshop Go Mechanic has raised about $42 million in a Series C funding round led by Tiger Global Management. The funds will be used for expansion in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities in India and to also launch operations in international markets. Now, currently the firm provides their services in 35 cities, and the goal is to operate in more than 100 cities and triple the team size. Well, Software as a Service or SaaS startup Rocket Lane has raised about $3 million in a seed round funding from Matrix Partners India and Nexus Ventures. Now, the company will be deploying these funds to hire additional talent as well as continue establishing its leadership in product and mindshare in a new and emerging category. Moving on to the final headline of the day, amid intensifying competition, online grocery delivery platform Grofers has announced a 33% hike for its engineering, product design as well as data teams. The company will be allocating employee stock options or ownership plans to members of its tech team. Now, reports suggest that Grofers is in the midst of a fundraising activity which is about $100 million from Zomato. This investment is likely to be part of a larger financing round and may value the online grocery firm at around $1 billion. Well, moving on to our second segment, I have with me a power-packed panel, all the bigwigs from the D2C space, and the topic of discussion today is the rise of homegrown brands. Let me first introduce you to each of the panelists out here. We have Arjun Srivastava from Wingreens, we have Vedang Patel from the Soul Store, we have PC Musthafa from ID Fresh Food, and we have Jatin Gujrati from Vedix. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I want to begin with you, Arjun. Wingreens has seen an exponential growth over the last couple of months, both in terms of expansion in range as well as the kind of go-to-market. So what has been your strategy that you think that worked for the audiences?
Yeah, hi. Actually, Priya, what's really, I think, important for all of us is that you follow where the consumer is moving, right? And if we are consumer brands, then that's the key. And I think what's happened, obviously, over these two phases of the COVID epidemic is that there is a shift that consumers' purchase habits are moving more towards digital and online. So it's if you've got to be relevant, then you've got to get that act right. So we have largely, for example, been an offline brand. We've always had an online e-commerce enabled website, but that was a very small part of our business. But now, obviously, with these changes happening, that's grown exponentially relative to, let's say, offline, which has been seeing a lot of challenges with modern trade stores shutting down, etc. So yeah, so that's the shift. And also the other thing that's happened in our case is that we've also acquired Raw Pressery, so that's come on board with us as of March, and fortunately, that's really working well for us. So it's both the brands together that we are now working together to build a new platform, which will be a direct-to-consumer play in the food and beverage space. And the idea really going forward is that you just sort of bring cool brands together and build a more viable direct-to-consumer business.
Right, I'm going to bring in the other person who is in the foods business, PC Musthafa. ID Fresh Food has done exponentially well over the last year. Lots of people consuming idli batters and filter coffees.
Yeah. So in the last 1 year, what we have noticed is people are becoming more health conscious. People are looking at more healthier options like natural preservative-free food, and fresh is the future. So fresh sells. So any packaged food is considered as unhealthy by Indians. But then the best reason to believe would be the manufacturing date and expiry date of the product. When it's fresh, customers tend to believe this is natural, chemical free, and all of them. Then that really helped for us. And we were always staying away from the spotlight. We were not selling idli, but we were selling idli batter. So homemaker picks up a pack of idli batter, cooks, customized to their taste, and adds her love, serves to the family, by cooking fluffy idli and serve it hot to the family. If idli comes out well, homemaker gets the credit, not the brand. But in case the dosa is not crispy enough, homemaker can actually blame it on the brand ID. So we took that positioning from day one, and that really helped. It was extremely important for us to understand one thing, that homemaker is the gatekeeper for the kitchen. She won't let an idli inside her kitchen. She's okay to buy idli batter and serve to the family. I think that positioning from day one and keeping the products 100% natural, no chemicals, no preservatives, nothing artificial, really worked out for us. And we stayed true to the brand promise. I think that's pretty much.
Right, huge opportunity out there. I'm sure both Vedang and Jatin also are thinking about then. Vedang, you were in the business with the Soul Store. What has been your experience over the last couple of months? In terms of traction online, and what kind of categories have really done well for you?
Thanks, Priya. I think the last couple of months, I'm going to actually extend it to say the last 1 year. That's where we feel that we've had a clear advantage over most of the competition. And let me start with a little more top-down approach. Firstly, everyone on this call has successful businesses in D2C because the consumer is looking for something which relates and solves their problem more specifically than a generic solution. Whether you take it in personal care, for example, right? Nobody now wants to buy the generic HULs. They want their specific shampoo, which they relate to, they like. And the same thing with even apparel we've seen. The casual wear space in India is very fragmented. And we felt that this is a really good business to now start growing because there is a niche that you can create. And any niche in India, one of the strengths our country has, the dividends, that's the population. We always have the janta to really take any business from like a 0 to 1,000 crores. Over the last 1 year, I feel one of the biggest differentiators in businesses that are successful and not successful, I think I'll include the Soul Store, is you should have had strong unit economics, a strong product. Your differentiator should be very clear compared to everyone else. But most importantly, I think it is the customer base that you built. If you had a sticky customer base pre-pandemic, I think they would have carried you through the pandemic as well. And that's something that we saw helped us over the last year. For an apparel company, I have not heard of any, but we grew, we were profitable. And I think that same playbook played out in the last 2 months in the lockdown as well, where we were seeing every month a high on like the highest month profitably. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say it's easy. The team has definitely pulled well, but having those fundamentals in place with clear differentiators, that's, I think, what's helped a lot.
Jatin, what's been your experience out there in personal care?
Right. I think both Musthafa and Vedang touched a very important point here. So when Musthafa said that they give the batter and the homemaker can customize it. And that's really the flavor, right? I mean, you need to give the customer the choice to be able to customize whatever they're buying, because that's where the differentiation lies. And from the very beginning, when we launched Vedix 2.5 years back, the focus was on customization, allowing customers to come in, take a personalized questionnaire, and then matching products to their specific skin care needs, specific hair care needs, specific nutra needs. And that has been the defining characteristics for the brand, right? We were one of the first customized D2C brand. To date, we do about 98% of our business on our own website, right? So there's one aspect of it where you can move inventory to an online platform, which gives you the opportunity to have infinite SKUs theoretically, right? Because there is no limitations on space. But the other thing, which is a very important element of D2C, is that the ability to communicate with the customer. And in our case, it was very, very important because since it's customized, we need to build the feedback loop so that we know whether it's working for the customer or not, right? And that is the power of being online, being a D2C driven brand. See, right now there are a lot of plug and play options for new brands when they launch in an online setting. But to go beyond where you're really interacting with the customers and taking the feedback, we need a solid tech team which we have built. So I think all of those steps that we took earlier has helped the business scale beautifully over the last 2.5 years and profitably. And I think that's the flavor, right? And people are looking for customized solutions to their food options, to their personal care options, to their clothing options, and that will be the defining characteristics of the next 10 years when we see the exponential growth in D2C brands. I mean, overall, I think the target market has also exploded over the last 3-4 years when more and more people are coming online. So I was reading some report, and right now there are 150 odd million consumers in the digital space, and that's going to probably more than double to 350 by 2025, right? So the opportunity itself is growing. So even if we just continue to target the way we are doing, the business for all of us is probably going to grow double for the next 2-3 years, right? So that's the extent of the opportunity in this space.
Well, one thing I want to understand from you, Arjun, is on the challenges as far as the D2C space is concerned, considering that logistics perhaps could be a challenge, considering 1-day and 2-day deliveries is something that larger players like Amazon, etc., excel at. So for D2C players, what according to you would be the biggest challenges?
Yeah, hi. Actually, I think, Musthafa can probably relate to this. At the time when we both started our businesses of trying to do fresh, the ecosystem didn't exist. So you had to really invent and do everything on your own. So you had to build your own cold rooms. You had to build your own last mile distribution to the retail stores. There was just no other choice. I think today things have evolved quite a bit. Yeah, at least there are a lot more third-party solutions. I think the whole ecosystem has developed a lot. We started in 2012, when none of this existed. So you just have to do it yourself, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about. And that has been our sort of never say die. Find a solution, find a quick way of reaching the product. You manufacture it in Gurgaon, you're selling it even in Cochin. How do you get it from there to there on a short shelf life, which is only 30 days? So, you innovate and you find the right solution. So that's how it's been done. I think today the good thing is that a lot of this has evolved. There are third-party options, solutions. We are still doing, at least in the top 6 metros, we are still doing it on our own. We still have our own cold rooms. We still have our own vehicles doing the last mile delivery to stores and even to consumers. But increasingly now, we will sort of start looking at what are the other options available to us. How does the unit economics work versus doing it ourselves versus doing it with someone else? And there is no doubt that, as you scale, it's hard to keep doing everything yourself. So you'll find the right sort of balance between doing some things yourself so that you have control over the last mile, over the last sort of customer experience. And some things you then start managing through third-party logistic partners. So, for example, everything that we do now on the ambient products, we do it through 3PL. But everything to do with fresh, we are still doing it ourselves. So that's as far as we've got till now. But, it's a totally dynamic and changing world. And as we are scaling up our fresh distribution, we will be, increasingly working more and more with partners.
But Musthafa, how would you really match up with a 1 or 2-day delivery that an Amazon or a larger e-commerce player really offers? What does it really take to match up with that kind of scale?
Yeah, as Arjun mentioned, right, running any business is tough. Running a food business is a very tough job. And running a fresh food business without adding chemicals and preservatives is probably the most toughest job in the world. And for a fresh food business like us, the biggest challenge is the wastage. It's a magical balance. We are dealing with a product with 3-day shelf life. If it is not sold on day 1, it won't get sold on day 2. So it is extremely important for us to use technology, do the right selling, do the right stock rotation, and thereby make it scalable and profitable. That's one aspect of the supply chain, and especially when you're dealing with a fresh food business with a 3-day shelf life, it's the toughest job in the world. Coming to the second part of the challenge, especially when you're dealing with the chilled products, again, the tough job would be to maintain the last mile storage. You could use the right cold chain systems while delivery and all of them. But at the end of the day, in the night, some stores switch off the chillers in the night. Not in your control. So choosing the right customer, choosing the right quantity in every store, and getting it right every time is the key. And thereby ensuring the product quality and product availability and controlling the wastage. I think that is a magical balance. And if you ask me today, I don't think we are a better company. We are probably one of the best fresh food distributors in the world. We got it right, or we are getting it right.
Right, I'm going to come to your own expansion and goals in just a bit. But before that, I want to bring in both Vedang and Jatin into this conversation to ask them what the challenges have been in the non-food business. Because considering that while both Wingreens as well as ID Fresh Food face the challenge of delivering food as it is in its freshest form, for a D2C brand like apparels as well as personal care, what do you consider to be the biggest challenges in the space?
I think for us, it would be, it's a little like what Musthafa and Arjun spoke. Inventory management is definitely the key differentiator for an apparel business. If you 99 out of 100 apparel businesses that shut down, it would be inventory, which would be the reason why they shut down, because of poor management. So keeping things with what's selling in stock, keep what's not selling not in stock, like not reordering those. I can go into a lot of detail out here, so I'm trying not to, because then it gets too mathematical. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges. The other challenge for any D2C company is eventually the marketing, right? On a P&L, everyone's costs, salaries, rent, they're all going to be more or less the same. I think the key differentiator between your P&L and someone else's is going to be that marketing. That's going to be the biggest plug. So having that, if you have a good story, if your product has a very clear advantage and a differentiator, I think that makes your marketing much easier. And that's how you have a clear advantage over other people. I think these two are not just apparel specific, but I think D2C specific issues which you need to look at solving.
But in fact, I think warehousing has been one of the strengths for us, because that allows us to maintain multiple SKUs and not have a lot of inventory for each one of them, versus let's say an offline environment when I need to maintain a limited number of inventory for each SKU in all these stores all over the country, right? So that has been a strength. Now, competing with Amazon with the 1 and 2 day delivery. So we have been able to grow. And as I said, 98% of business is from Vedix.com. So we have been able to do that. And I think the ecosystem has evolved, as Arjun said, where we are able to do deliveries in 1 and 2 days for all metros, and maximum 5 days for tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So that has not been a challenge, actually. It has been one of the strengths. But as Vedang rightly said, the top of the funnel, the acquisition has been and probably is the biggest challenge for D2C brands all over the entire category as such. But I think the only way to tackle that is to build a beautiful product that actually works, so that you have enough people coming back for buying it again and again, so that overall you are able to manage those costs. And as otherwise the P&L just explodes out of your hand. So yeah, I think warehousing and supply chain, all of those have been a strength, but marketing has been one of the biggest challenges.
Now, I want to talk to each of you about the future of D2C and the kind of growth that you expect in each of your businesses. Arjun, you said that you're looking at both food and beverage now, with Raw Pressery also under your fold. What is the kind of future that you see for Wingreens in the immediate future? What kind of expansion plans do you have? Are you looking at more category expansions as well? What kind of plans do you have going forward?
Yeah, actually, our plans are very, very clear, and they're sort of going to unfold in the very short term. Within a few weeks, actually, beginning of next month, we will be launching our new e-commerce platform, which will bring both the brands together. And part of the strategy there is to build a strong direct-to-consumer food and beverage play. There is no other company which has a direct-to-consumer food and beverage platform. So we want to be the first. And we have the portfolio now with both the categories of products. And what we are going to do going forward, besides just building the platform and enabling swift direct-to-consumer, is also that we will be getting many more brands onto that platform. So we are really calling it the house of brand strategy. So we will be present across multiple categories. So when a consumer comes, you've got to make make sense to the consumer, right? Not enough consumers are going to come and buy one product from Wingreens, buy a second product from Raw, buy a third product in another category from another direct-to-consumer brand, and a fourth from elsewhere, and a fifth from elsewhere, right? That is where the convenience of a marketplace comes in. And so you may go and buy whatever is available on Big Basket or Amazon. So the only way a direct-to-consumer play can really work on scale is that you actually have a wider range of offerings on that platform. So that is what we're going to do. We will have multiple brands on the platform, brands that we will either acquire, like we have acquired Raw Pressery, or brands that we will partner with, not from just a distribution partnership. That's not what we are looking at, but a strategic partnership. And then you have a portfolio, and that's how you drive up average order values. You make your customer acquisition costs go further. And so that's really the game plan, and all that will start happening right from next month itself.
Right, Vedang, a lot of fundraising as well happening in the space, specifically in the D2C space. We're seeing a lot of funding frenzy happening. At the YourStory, what kind of expansion and fundraising plans are you harboring?
So we are, I don't think I should talk about the fundraising plans. It's not the right time. But on the expansion plans, slightly different from Arjun's way of going about it. He's thinking about a house of brands. We're thinking about a brand that has a house of things. So what we would like to do is grow the YourStory to become a one-stop lifestyle destination for the youth. I think the youth is what is going to drive D2C anyway for the short and medium term. Those your 18 to 32 are the online buying audience, that the people who are going to spend most money. They buy most often on apparel and other lifestyle products. So that's basically the target audience that we want to have. And I think once you've created a brand that stands for clear trust, product quality, offerings, then what we want to do is double down and then start growing categories a little more horizontally in that space as well. So that's where we are. We also have plans to go, I know, offline retail, like company-owned, company-operated stores. Our stores are doing really well with a few pilots that we've done. So that's one of our omni-channel is another strategy that we want to go.
And I'm assuming that fundraise is also just around the corner since you can't talk about it. But we won't ask you more questions on that. We'll leave it to the audiences to understand what is going to happen going forward. But I want to bring in Musthafa here. Musthafa, lots of partnerships around the corner for ID Fresh Food. I believe there's one partnership with Big Basket that you've just done. And is that going to be the way forward? Partnerships leading to more expansion and diversification?
Partnership is the best way to grow the business and do anything better, right? So 1 + 1 is actually 10 in our case. So for example, when we started with Big Basket last year, we were doing a revenue of around 30 lakhs per month with Big Basket. And in a span of the last 14 months, that revenue is up by 10x. So it is now from 30 lakhs, we have grown to 33 crore per month. And we're able to get that kind of a growth because we are able to align both the partners on the end objective and give the right value proposition for end consumer, which is fresh. So one probably thing I want to clarify here is, since you were talking about the future of business, right? So if you just look at the history of the retail in India, retail in the world, it all started with small-time mom and pop kirana stores. Then came supermarkets. Then came the modern trade. Then came the Amazon, Big Baskets, e-coms, right? Then we see the merge of offline and online. But one thing that the world doesn't notice today is the future of fresh. I personally think fresh is going to be the future because people will become more health conscious and they need a reason to believe. And that reason should be fresh. Anything in the fresh format is bound to sell and could disrupt anything in the category. Even for that matter, right? Cosmetics, right? I think fresh could disrupt. I think the fresh is the future.
So ready-to-eat products coming in, ready-to-cook products, I believe, with Big Basket under the brand Fresho, Musthafa.
It's ID Fresho brand that we have launched 3 products today, which is batter paratha and wheat paratha. Other products we're evaluating. There are many products that we may not be able to take through the retail format with like 1 day shelf life. Let's take a product like coconut chutney. A coconut chutney stays without chemicals and preservatives only for 1 day. I can't take it through retail format. So this kind of partnership helps us to take the right product to the consumers directly and keep it fresh.
Right, Jatin, I believe Vedix has plans to go global as well. What kind of future plans are you looking at in terms of expansion, growth, category expansion? What is the way forward?
Right, so we have very clear 3-pronged strategy here. We want to expand the categories that we are in. So right now we are hair care and we have skin care. We want to go into body care, baby care, hair color, and Nutra cosmetics. Right. The second is deepen the categories we are already in. So within skincare and hair care, we have a slew of SKUs that we'll be launching over the next 8 to 12 months. And third is going international, as you rightly said. I think the plan is to go to US. It's a big destination for natural, organic, and Ayurvedic brands, and also Middle East. So these are 3 strategies we are looking at, and hopefully that will help us double our revenue in the next 2 years.
Right. I'm going to come to closing comments from each of the panelists. One question that I think most people who want to start a D2C brand out there have is, what does it take to really grow and scale up a D2C brand? I want each of you to give maybe one tip to aspiring entrepreneurs out there in terms of what you think is the secret sauce to your success. Arjun, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it's passion, and it has to be with some purpose. You have to be really passionate about something, and that passion must come from a deeper place where you're trying to solve something important, right? And if you are clear about that, then fortunately, the whole ecosystem today is very supportive. There are so many options, but you've just got to first get down and grind it out. I think my only word of advice other than this for entrepreneurs is that, don't start something because you think, for a funding. I mean, that's the last reason why you should. That's why I said purpose and passion, because it should not be about funding.
Right, Vedang, many smiles out there. Tell us what your thoughts
I see that. No, the reason I smile is because I hear of those examples as well. I think my answer here is, a lot of people ask this, what's like the one skill I need to know? And is it HR management? Is it marketing? Do I need to have an MBA? Do I need to be tech? I think firstly, I have none of those skills. The answer I would say is mindset. For me, if you have the right mindset, that is like your approach to solve problems, then you're going to be a little more successful, because problems are, I think that's like what all entrepreneurs are. You're just like a problem solving machine, and there'll be like big problems and small problems thrown at you on a daily basis, and how you approach them is so important. That mindset of a can-do attitude and being practical, not fooling yourself. That's what I would say is the number one skill that you need to have.
Sure. I think it's ever so easy to start a D2C brand right now because the whole ecosystem has evolved. You have plug and play, Shopify, delivery partners. But one thing very important is that you need to have a key differentiator and a consumer group that you're targeting when you launch any product. Because if you don't have, then you are for everyone. And in that case, you are just for no one. And if you're lucky, that the consumers, that particular group will run with it and spread the word, and the category will grow for you, or it might not grow, right? But at least you would have had that experience of creating something meaningful for a certain group of customers, right? So you have to have a very key differentiator. Otherwise, just as Arjun said, very well-defined purpose and very clear idea of who you're targeting with that product or service.
I've already summarized, but let me try to take one tip. Look around. Identify customer problems and try to solve it for a customer. Use your common sense. I think most of the entrepreneurs that I met these days, they try to create business for themselves or for the private equity, not for consumers. Think from a consumer perspective and solve the problems for a customer. Common sense is the most important ingredient for any startup, which is reducing dangerously these days.
All right, some very interesting comments from the panelists here. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much for your insights on how the D2C brand market has evolved and what the future of D2C brands is going forward. Thank you for your time, and thank you so much for being a part of the Daily Dispatch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Priya.
Thanks, Priya.
Time now to wrap up this edition of the Daily Dispatch. I'll catch you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Goodbye and stay safe.